Alright, in this video we're going to talk about kind of putting together everything that we've done in this unit, how to how to solve rational equations. And these look a little imposing, like number one, and number two when you first look at them. But if they look imposing, I want to give you kind of an easier example right here that I think you would know how to solve, or at least it would make sense. So suppose that I gave you this equation right here, and I said solve that equation for x. Well, you could do it the normal way. You could subtract 1/3 for both sides, and then you could divide by 1/2. But there's an easier way to do this that would not involve having any fractions. And then what you could do is you could multiply both sides of this by this right here, the LCD, which stands for least common denominator. So the least common denominator of 4, 2, and 3 turns out to be 12. Okay, if you were adding those fractions, you would need them all to have a denominator of 12. So here's what happens. If you multiply this by 12, those will cancel. If you multiply 12 over here, that will become a 6. And also if you multiply 12 over here, that will become a 3. So what would happen is you'd have 3 equals 6 plus, sorry, 6x I should say, plus 4. It's a little bit messy, so let me rewrite that. 3 equals 6x plus 4. This is a much easier equation to solve. There are no fractions in it. So what we just did there is the exact same thing that we're going to do in numbers 1 and 2. We're going to find what the least common denominator is and then multiply everything by that. Okay, the first thing we want to do even before that is to factor whatever we can factor. So let's try to do that on both of these. Okay, so we'll start with number 1. We want to factor this. So this right here, what numbers multiply to -8 but add to +2? That would be +4 and -2. And this is going to be the same. Okay, so the question is, what's the least common denominator? And the answer is we need it to cover everything. So we're going to need an n plus 4 and an n minus 2. That will cover that first fraction. We already covered the n minus 2 over here on that 1 over n minus 2, so that one is all set. And then we already covered that last one because it's the same as what we did first. So that means we're going to have to multiply both sides of this by that denominator, by n plus 4 times n minus 2. So that's exactly what we'll do right now. And the same thing over here, n plus 4 times n minus 2. Alright, so on the left side, these will cancel, and those will cancel, and that just leaves us with 2. That's obviously way easier to deal with than what we started with. Okay, on this side, same thing. Those will cancel, those will cancel. We're left with 1. And by the way, there's a minus right there, so it's -1. Okay, then on the other one, let me use a different color. When you distribute over to this other fraction right here, the n minus 2's will cancel, but the n plus 4 is still there, and it's getting multiplied by the 1. So 1 times n plus 4 is just equal to n plus 4. Now we can simplify. So 4 minus 1 is 3, and that's equal to 2. And then when we subtract from both sides, we're going to get -1 equals n. And on all of these problems, it's always a good idea to check the answers because we're multiplying by things that are having squares in them. And in a previous session, we talked about when you have extraneous solutions, what ends up happening is, suppose I were squaring these two numbers. These both equal 25, but if you go the opposite direction, you're only getting the one answer. You're only getting the +5, not the negative. So it's like you lost information in that process. So if you plug in -1 up here, let's just do that real quick. -1 plus 4 is 3. -1 minus 2 is -3. So this whole side becomes 2 over 3 times -3 is -9. Okay, the other side, if we plug in -1 right here, 1 over -1 minus 2 is -1/3. And then we're going to have over here, this we already know is -9. So we'll have -1/3 minus -1/9. Just put that down here. So -2/9 equals, this is the same as -3/9. Okay, and actually that's a minus right there. So it should, I wrote a plus, it should be minus -1/9, which is like +1/9. And sure enough, that thing does equal -2/9. So that's how we can check. Alright, let's try so I encourage you to pause the video and try and see if you can do number 2 right here and also number 3 down there. Give those a try, and when you're ready, press play. Alright, so same thing, we need to factor, so we can't factor b minus 2. We can factor this. This has a common factor of b, and when we pull that out, it's b minus 2. So our least common denominator, it's going to need a b minus 2 to cover both of those, and it's also going to need a b to cover this and this. So b times b minus 2, whoops, I put the parentheses in the wrong place there. B times b minus 2, that's going to be what covers the denominators for both, and that's what we're going to end up multiplying by. So b times b minus 2 over here, b times b minus 2 over here. Okay, now these b's will cancel and we're going to be left with b minus 2 times b plus 2 right there. And then same thing on the other side. B and B cancel. B minus 2, B minus 2 cancel. So all we're left there is with this minus 6. And then we use a different color here. The B is going to cancel. Sorry, didn't mean to do that. The B minus 2 will cancel with that B minus 2, but this B is still there, and it's getting multiplied by that. So now we can simplify this. If we distribute the B, we'd have B squared minus 6B minus 6. If you FOIL this side, B times B is B squared. That the inside terms will be minus 2b, the outsides will be plus 2b, so those will actually cancel, and then negative 2 times positive 2 is minus 4. Now what we can do is move everything to one side, put it in standard form, so let's subtract b squared, and that's kind of nice because those are now both completely gone, and we'll add 4 to both sides, and we'll get negative 6b, negative 6 plus 4 is negative 2, and that equals 0 now because we moved all that stuff over. We'll add 2 to both sides. We'll get negative 6b equals 2. Divide by negative 6. And we say that b equals to negative 1/3. Okay, then we would have to plug that in to check. And it's a little bit messy to do that, but do plug it in to check and see that it's not extraneous.